Meeting to order, if everybody could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Blair, if you could just note board members and administrators present. And board, you have an agenda in front of you. If you could take a look at it and if there's any changes or amendments that need to be made. Okay, could I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll support.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Nay? Okay, motion carries 6-0. And next up is the consent agenda. The approval of meeting minutes, the special board meeting on June 19th, 2023, and regular board meeting on June 19th, 2023. Approval of accounts payable in the amount of $1,713,867.42 for the month of June 2023. An approval of the treasurer's report dated June 30th, 2023 with a balance of $17,082,996.94. Could I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll support.
Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Overgard,
Yes.
Shute,
Yes.
Wilkes,
Yes.
Horsey,
Yes.
Simmons,
Yes.
Walker.
Yes. Motion carries 6-0. Okay, next up is reports. A, community input on agenda items only.
Let's see if everybody's signed up.
Yeah. Next up under reports, bond update. Okay, it's not.
Oh, it's not working?
It comes down, here it goes
Take this
up.
one.
Oh, thank you.
Never bring it up. So as I shared with you last week, we had an issue with the turf, and they're investigating. I was hoping that I would have answers today, but they're still working on it. They have begun. They will by tomorrow have peeled back the sides of, well, the areas of the turf where we had to insert the drains. They're looking at the compactness of it. There's just, a couple of different things that they want to figure out to make sure that it's fixed. And again, hopefully I'll know by the end of tomorrow. It's taking a while, and we certainly recognize that that's going to happen. I do want to assure you, though, that it does not impact the schedule at all. In fact, by the end of next week, they will probably be paving the track as well, at least the first surface, as well as the additional parking lot. If you are out there right now, you would see that concrete is being put in. So, the process continues, and it's not a problem for that to happen. We just got to make sure that the composite is the way it needs to be, so that these little sinkholes don't happen. We had some rain, obviously, in the past week or so. I always know when the pond is really full out here when you pull it, and the issue did not happen again. So anyway, as soon as I know more, Dean is keeping me posted. I haven't gotten over to the primary school for a while, so I'm hoping to do that this week, and I can take some pictures and share with you. And if sometime next week you want to make a plan to go visit, I know Ben asked today, but I think we should wait till next week. Feel free just to holler and we can get Jason and we can go out and take a look because there's a lot of progress being made. The other thing is that the play clocks, the electricity was put in for them, but when we did a walkthrough, we felt that they weren't in the right places, that it was too close to where, soccer in the would do a corner kick and you'd be too close to it. So they are working, they've done a little research as to where other districts have put theirs, so we're moving them a little. Not going to impact anything other than just the electrical boxes have to be moved a little bit. So, and I don't think there was much else other than that. So again, turf is on schedule. Tomorrow is the deadline for bricks. We have sold a lot. If you don't have yours, make sure that you get it done before tomorrow 11 a.m. Okay, because we've got to get them paid for and shipped back so that we have them. And I wish I could remember the numbers now. I'll text it to you tomorrow. It was like it's a ton. So we're very excited. A couple families called today wanting to do something. So could we please postpone it by 24 hours? And that was Mr. Martin working with another family. And so we're going to definitely have a lot out there and it's going to be wonderful. So we haven't yet determined those contingency funds left over from the turf, and that's because, or this stadium, and that's simply because we need to figure this part out first. Although, whatever issue is with the turf, that will not be a cost to us. That will be on the contractor. Philip and I, we know that we need to get you a capital projects fund. There's a few pieces, I think, Philip, we said that have to be accounted for. So hopefully by the next board meeting, we can provide them one.
Yep.
Okay, and kind of show you where we are. Any questions about the projects? Okay. If we're going to get into it sooner, we should know that sooner or later, as far as the stadium. Oh, I didn't touch it. The primary school is completely on schedule for it to be turned over the 1st of August. So, yep, it's really going well there.
Quick question on the turf.
Yes.
Is having those types of issues normal, like after they put in,
No.
no, okay.
No, not at all. Nope. So somebody didn't do something. We just don't know exactly what it was. It's fixable. Easily.
Okay. Okay, so next up under reports is the contingency funds, but you stated,
Actually, I went through all of them.
oh, okay.
Yep. Thank you.
Oh, yep, okay, sorry.
No, it's okay.
Next up under reports is C, the school aid funding for 2023, 2024.
So just a couple of things I want to go over. Not everything is, known in exactly how much the funding comes to us, but I do want to mention a couple of things. Number one, the foundation allowance per student did go up $458, and that is what Philip and I did put in our projected budget, so that number is a solid number. So that was us. It was a conservative, right, because the other two houses did have it a little higher, but it means that we are on target with that projection. So as far as more revenue, that's only going to come in if we can get more kids. And I want to be optimistic, and yet the more I read from different districts, the more I see that districts are losing kids. But the good news is that in this budget, and I'm not exactly sure how it would work, Philip, it was a little confusing, but there is some stabilization funds so that schools that are losing enrollment, there will be a different way to count kids as a way to kind of offset those losses, because we, as a state of Michigan, we've lost a lot of children. So hopefully that's not us. It wasn't last year. So
Can I ask a question?
sure.
Are they talking about backdating that to like COVID era when we lost a whole bunch of kids? Because since then we've actually gained, haven't we? A few.
Yeah. No, I think Philip.
It's an average over a couple of year period.
Yeah.
So it takes last year's count and compares it to the coming count in October 2023, and if it goes down, then you're allowed to average those two counts.
Okay,
Is my understanding
So it's
of
just
how it
the 2
works.
years.
I haven't seen the full guidance yet on it, but I think it only goes back 1 year.
Yeah, and that's where we know sometimes generalities, but we haven't seen the details yet. It's a good question. The other thing, and again, we don't know exactly how this is going to work, but there is what's called educator compensation payment. The estimated GA revenue is going to be about $44,457, and that funding is to increase educator compensation. I don't think we know all of the details about how that is supposed to happen or et cetera, but just so you know, that was a nice one that was put in there. Then there's one for transportation. We don't know how much additional funding, but there will be some additional funding. I know that the goal is to help districts who have more miles to cover, especially rural districts. And so just know that that's out there. We just don't know the amount. We did know that at-risk funds were going to go up. And that has helped GA a lot because we know we have a lot of at-risk kids, but our free and reduced is kind of just staying steady around 49-50%. But we're going to have an increase there, and just recognize that at-risk does not help the bottom line because these are special funds that are only designated for certain things. It does mean that, as we look at what kids' needs are, right, we can feel more comfortable with several of the things we've put into place, like the social worker or the those kinds of things. There is, again, funding for mental health and school safety, so that makes me more confident about, again, several of the mental health pieces we put in there, and also being able to look at the school resource officer coming on board. There's some early literacy instructional dollars, about $100,000. Again, it's one-time funding, so it's not anything ongoing, and we'll take a look with administrators where we could use that to help kids. Universal breakfast and lunch is going to be there, so that's pretty exciting. Just for the 1 year at this point. And essentially how it works is whatever funding we don't get reimbursed by the feds, the state makes up those, so that there's no cost to the district. The documentation, all of that still has to happen. We need to work hard with Chartwells that parents are filling out those free and reduced forms. And then there's still some safety dollars from last year that haven't been spent, so we can reapply for those. And that is the work that we're going to be doing with the company SEC, training teachers and principals on more of the scenarios, the emergency scenarios that we need to be revisiting. So I'm thinking, of course, special ed is going to be paid for in full. That doesn't impact us because it already happens for us. There are some one-time funds for helping employees pay their loans, but again, we don't know what that's going to look like either. So some pretty interesting changes and additions, and as Philip and I get going and take a look at its impact on us, and we'll look at staffing, we'll be able to give you a little more update in a month or two. Okay. Questions?
What is the information on the preschool, not necessarily for all, but the increase like GSRP?
Yep, so they will be funded a full FTE just like the rest of students. So pre-K GSRP student fully funded. Is that what you're asking?
Well, in the I'm trying to think of the wording, percent of poverty, did that change?
Yeah, but I can't tell you what that is. I don't know if it changed this year, but it was pretty high last year.
I
But I'm
don't
not
know that
sure.
it changed
I didn't hear that it
for the
changed.
coming year. I'm
Okay.
not positive, but
Okay, yep. Cool, thanks.
Diana. Do you have the consent agenda?
Well, I was gonna ask whether there were any.
Laura, there were none listed in our
No,
packet.
there's no
Okay.
hires or anything.
That seems to be adjusted.
Okay, next up under business items for discussion is A, the monthly budget discussion. Bill?
Yeah, you have a report that brings us through full 12 months of the fiscal year, June 30. This is our first kind of glance at the year end and kind of how it wrapped up. There's a few key adjustments that aren't yet made to give us a full picture of the year, and those are, we're still receiving state aid in July and August. Those revenues have to be reported back into the fiscal year, fiscal 23, and the same with teacher salaries particularly. They're paid out, most of them are paid out through July and August. Those have to be accrued back. So those entries aren't yet completed. So we always do two looks at the June 30 report. This one, and then in the August board meeting we'll look at it again, and that'll give us a more complete picture of how we ended the year as we go into the audit. So happy to answer questions. Nothing out of the ordinary, this report compared to same time period last year, but happy to answer questions.
It was pretty self-explanatory.
Yep.
Okay, next up under business items for discussion is B, personnel.
I added that. I know that Jessica was asking questions about, hey, when are we gonna know who's moved into what? It's still a moving target. I go out to gomesa.org and take a look at all the positions that are open. There are hundreds across the state of Michigan. And so we're in competition, there's just no doubt about it, but some of them are shifts. As a position opens, a teacher could decide that's what they want to do, one of our own. And so we'll keep you, it's a little hard to tell you now because there's going to be changes, but hopefully by the August board meeting or the COW, maybe we'll be able to share more about the different positions, whether the new hires or anybody shifting, okay?
It'd be nice to have like that broke down, because there's been a lot of moving pieces, and I think I got lost somewhere along the way.
It's a moving target, and
Yeah.
it usually is over the summer. It's nothing new, so.
Okay, next up under business items for discussion is the district calendar for 2023-2024. So Kim Jankowski and Sean met quite a bit to work on the district calendar. They do a good job of starting with last year, then kind of trying to replicate it. And then when they come to some hurdles, the team for the association talks together and the admin, and they created we've got a TA, a tentative agreement, and you have received a linear copy of it. And hoping that the board will approve that. I'm just going to bring it up in case you have questions. And from years past when I've seen that, thank you Kim and Sean, because that is actually way more complicated than it looks. There's really a lot of work to that, and it looks like you just think, oh, I plug in dates, but no, there's a lot more.
One of the things we're doing differently, as you know, we have a lot of teachers who are moving. The fact that the 4th grade and the 8th grade are moving, but then that impacts other classrooms. 8th grade moving out of the 8th grade hall. There's some changes at the high school level. So we are giving staff extra time in those first 4 days back to use classrooms and get them ready. So, but do note that the open house for the primary school is in fact the 23rd. So we will be doing the ribbon cutting before that. I think we got it backwards. The ribbon cutting is supposed to be before.
I thought it said doesn't that?
I don't mind it.
It says primary, but it's 4:45 and then ribbon cutting 5:30.
I think it's supposed to be the opposite. Just flip them over. We'll get that fixed before we put it out on, made public. But otherwise, we're still doing our half days of early release. That seems to be more popular than the delayed starts. So, and of course the holiday breaks and spring breaks are the same across the county.
Okay, next up under business items for discussion is policy updates.
There's a lot of papers. There's a lot of paper, but there's not a lot of changes. So just a reminder that if it's stricken out, that means it was in the former policy, now it's gone. And then the green is a change. And this is a first reading, there's no approval tonight, so I'll quickly go through them and then spend some time. I would ask that you spend some time taking a look at them. They're kind of in 3 sections. One is tobacco use, technology, and then some policies on their own, okay? So school safety, again, it's just bringing it up to, replacing some verbiage, right? As far as making sure that we're meeting obligations for statewide school safety information. You'll see that in green, okay? The last time this was touched was 2015, so it's needed and updated. You can imagine there's a lot more out there regarding school safety. A lot of what we're doing from Neola is we're getting rid of the his, her, so you'll see that stricken quite a few times. Sometimes it's replaced by they, and there's not a lot of anything that's complicated. Some of it is just cleanup of language. Okay? Alright, so that one's that one. Federal grants and funds, I think there's an update for this every single year. We just did one last year, but so federal grants and funds, there's I think one change, if I recall. And that, yeah, one or two greens when required by a federal program legislation, right? So it's all about meeting federal law. So there's just a couple of legal changes. It really is verbiage, and that's it. Hopefully I've got them in the same order that you do.
Yeah, they just,
Okay.
they're in the same, the front packet.
Yeah.
The front packet.
Okay.
Yep, stay in the front packet.
Okay, gotcha.
6325.
Okay.
Procurement federal grants and funds. So just a couple of small changes. Okay. The next one is the revised student assessment. Some of this is just getting rid of his and her, that language. And otherwise, it is just keeping it up to date with which grade levels are tested and what subjects. This was 2015. I don't think there's much change since then, but obviously the policy didn't include that before. And page 2 is all new language. My understanding is that another superintendent asked to have this language added, and so Neola did that. Superintendent is responsible for district assessment and testing, and then making sure that staff are trained to do it appropriately. It's pretty much what that big green piece is on page 2. And again, otherwise there's just some grade level changes, so really easy. There's several on technology and web accessibility, content, apps, and services. Part of what we're doing is making sure it's documented that our servers are housed at KRESA, and so that's in there. A lot of districts now do that. Everybody with me? Web accessibility? Try to stay. And again, because what we use is different today, you can see in green YouTube channels, TikTok sites, those kinds of things, apps. And the other, making sure that as things are on the website or student work, that we have permission from families, right, to publish work or publish students' names, etc. And so that's in there. The other thing is to make sure that we are 504 compliant, right? That our district's website and everything is accessible by those who would need a different kind of accessibility. And we do that already. Nicole does a good job with that. Another piece that you'll read about in this one, because again, there's only some changes. This is the next one. Nope, I think it's in the student one. And then I could just list who's the web accessibility coordinator, and we're gonna make that Kaylee Wilson. Alright, so not a lot of changes on that one. And then the next one is continuity of organizational operations plans. So as you know, during COVID, when we had to go virtual, we had to have plans about how we would do this. This is a policy that's been just changed a little bit. So for example, if we had cyber attacks, what's our plan for continuing to educate kids if we were shut down? And again, there's only a couple of changes there. Okay. All right. The next one is technology, advertising, and commercial activities. And only a couple of updates. And really it's not a lot changed, other than making sure that we have, let's see, make sure if you're on page 2 of that one, you can see that there's guidelines for where advertising can and cannot be, and then who's in charge, myself or someone I designate to make sure that that is approved by the district and that they're following district policies. So again, you can see not a lot there either, just a couple of greens. This one, the next one is about revised information management, and it is about records retention. So in the past, we would think that the records of kids are all in CA60, it's in a file, when in fact a lot of the information, it could be an email from me to a staff member, it could be an assessment document that we've created about how the child is doing. And so this talks about how we need to retain those, especially if we were looking at disciplinary action, or if there was a court case that says, hey, you've got to hold on to these until this is resolved. And that's pretty much what all this green is about. Make sense? Yep, life changes and we adapt. All right, so the next one, which is information security, is literally just a couple of word changes. That's all it is. And part of it is actually changing the title of District Information and Technology Resources, so giving it a new title. Okay, and then student technology acceptable use. There's some bigger changes here. Again, because of having new technologies, right? We lived through the pandemic, and now we're using so many different kind of apps, etc. So this is now about students and what they can and cannot access. And, there's always a piece in here about how to train kids, so that they know the rules about how to use technology. I think that's something that the admin and I need to kind of re-look at. We don't have so even though we have a program where we can see what kids are doing online, it isn't going to be foolproof. And so that's another thing that the policy says, is that we're not going to be able to catch every child from going somewhere, getting through something. So, yeah. Okay. And then the next one is staff acceptable use. And because of some of these changes, we will need to change our technology use forms. So Kaylee is working with other districts and taking a look at how those are going to be changed as a result of the policy. I don't know that we'll have it before this fall, but there's quite a few changes again in there.
Artificial intelligence.
Yes, artificial intelligence is in there. Yeah, that's one that I'm not looking forward to, but it's in there, and but at least we have guidance, so that part is good. you may have questions about that one, we can talk about that. And then tobacco, just a couple of changes. Not a lot. One of the things, of course, is it's updating what tobacco is. Now we have vapes, etc. So that's in there now. And so it's basically at public events, school premises, and then we have students, tobacco used by students, staff, and I think admin. And those are pretty much all the same. So once you read one, it'll be consistent across all the groups. Make sense?
Yeah.
All right, and then school safety information, so they would do that one? Yes. So did I miss anything?
No, they got it.
All right, just have 2 copies. So just taking a look at those before the regular meeting in August, and if you have questions or concerns, reach out to me. And if we have questions we can answer, we can always get a hold of Chris Rice from Neola. I appreciate Laura. This is a complicated thing to learn how to do, and so she's still learning it. It's not very fun either as far as the online piece of that. All right, okay, that's it.
So the vote won't be at the cow, it'll be at the regular board meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, next up under business items for discussion is the draft strategic plan.
Yeah. So I only got so far. I'm only through goal 4, and I think there's 12. So, but I thought it was important to get you this much. There's some, I think, some language work with those others, with all of the goals, just because it, for those of you who were there, we had them all up, and we're still playing with some language. So, but I thought it would be helpful to get out to you the vision statement, the mission, the belief statements, and the values, and then just to see a couple of the goals. I hope that I'll have this all done by the cow. And we can talk about what we should do first. I know that one of the things we had talked about a while ago is if we had questions, do we want Mr. Sigleric to come back at all? One of the things I want to do is go back and read through comments to ensure that maybe there isn't something that we've missed. But we have 12 goals, so probably not very likely that we missed much because the group really worked hard at looking at that data. I just think we did an exceptional job. I really love these. And, you know, as a RAM fam, we were really excited about using that term. We will empower and support each student to excel by providing real-world learning. I think that's a great short vision statement, and that we can all learn it and remember it. But if you take a look at it and then just make some thoughts, write some comments, and then we'll visit it at the cow with the rest of it. Sound good? All right. I got a lot of posters still to type from, so. But I thought it was a really, really good work.
Okay, next up is 8, communications, public participation. Sitting nice and tight. Yeah, I can get it. Just come on up.
Kim Jankowski. I just wanted to make sure we recognized a couple of resignations that we have had since the last board meeting, because a couple of people have been here for a while. So John Kornick and Steve Washburn both resigned, and then we also have had Jacob Bauman from the high school that has resigned recently. That's all.
Just really quickly, as you guys are going through all these policy updates, and Kim and I have been in contact with Diana about this the last 2 or 3 weeks. I believe you don't have like a formalized process for filing a complaint against a violation of a board policy, so I encourage you guys to work on formulating a easy process for people to follow, because it's kind of all over the place or it doesn't exist. So if you could work on that, and then when that's formulated, if you could let us know, that would be great. Thank you.
Okay, next up is 9, business items for decision, the district calendar. So if I could have a motion, and I would just, you want us to list down there to switch the primary open house with the ribbon cutting? So when you read the recommended action, just read that too. Yeah. So if I could have a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2023-2024 district calendar with the change in open house and ribbon cutting.
I'll support. Any discussion?
I'm sad.
Roll call vote, please.
Overgard,
Yes.
Shoup,
Yes.
Wilkes,
Yes.
Horsey,
Yes.
Simmons,
Yes.
Walker.
Yes. Motion carries 6-0. Next up is 10, communications. A, board comments. I was just gonna bring up, and anybody out there that wants one, Stuff the Bus is this Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So I'll be out there every day, so come and see me and bring items out there, tell all your friends. But I brought little flyers just so all the information's on there, so if anybody wants one.
That's awesome.
I'm excited. I just hope it doesn't, well, I'm fine with rain, I just hope it's not too hot. Priorities. Okay, anybody else have any? Superintendent's comments?
I just wanted to add about the MASB Summer Institute. I think it's coming up in August. I wasn't sure. I know Diane is going. If anybody else had, I know it's hard. It's August. It's summer. It's the last. Well, football season probably starts for a lot of little people. So, I just wanted to encourage you. I know there are some classes online as well. So, let Laura know if there's anything that you want to be doing. Yeah, I forget where it is.
So it's August 11th through the 13th, and it's in Clinton Township, which is Macomb County. It's quite a ways away. And I have a couple nights off, so I figured I'd have dinner with my kid one night because he's out that way. But yeah, it's not as good as Mackinac.
Or Novi. Shopping.
Oh, yeah, I don't do shopping.
All right, and then the other thing I just wanted to share, because I'm kind of excited about it, we are having a county superintendent social tomorrow, and that's so that all the other soups can meet the new KPS superintendent as well as the new KRISA superintendent. While I heard Dr. Dietrich Martin is the new KRISA, I'm heard during his interviews. I haven't gotten to have a conversation with him yet. He comes from Caledonia. And then Darren Slade is the new KPS superintendent, and he's coming from St. Louis, Missouri. So we have a little get-together, kind of probably, I don't know if it's a full dinner, but at least some snacks tomorrow to get to know them. So I'm pretty excited about that. And then we had Diane and I had talked about possibly doing a GoFundMe. I think I mentioned that in the last update about, the play clocks, maybe some seating out at the stadium, and we had tried to pull a group together, and it kind of went like this. So I wasn't sure what folks thought about that. I got to talk to Philip about how we could do that, but that may be the fastest way to try and get some funding for the play clocks, or somebody wanting to buy a bench out there, because again, we don't have any benches, etc. We weren't able to afford them as we went through, but.
Do you want me to discuss a little bit about?
Yeah,
so
Union City.
yeah, so I graduated from Union City, and I followed what they do, and their sports boosters. It's actually been done through there. They're getting the sports boosters isn't part of it, but they're redoing all of their bleachers and everything. So on top of that, they wanted to redo their concession stand and press box, which is 3 stories. Because their concession stands at the bottom, then their press box. And so they didn't get the money to do that through their initial bond. So what they did is, through Facebook and word of mouth, they needed $16,000 for all of the improvements to be done. And they said, anybody that gives $1,000, your name will be put on a plaque and then put up wherever. So I reached out to their Sports Boosters president and asked him, I'm like, because they're at like $30,000 now. And people are still, they keep giving. And I said, how did you do that? I mean, that's a lot of money and from a pretty darn small community. So he said at first they didn't get much traction, and he put in $1,000 and then made a few phone calls to people he knew. And then through word of mouth, and when they started donating, he would take a picture with them doing their donation, putting it out on Facebook and thanking them and saying, please support your local business of such and such. So they've had businesses, farms, people doing donation in memory of, just a class that graduated, they got together and donated funds. But really in the amount of about 3 weeks, they've gotten almost $30,000. So, I mean, it's a pretty simple way. You reach out to, local business owners, people you know. If that's something that, people are interested in, I figured it might be worth a shot.
What's the amount we're trying to raise for that stuff?
That's what I was just gonna say, we don't need that much. The play clocks, I think, are about between 10 and 11,000 total for both. And then, we're really just looking at a couple of, as we think about, mom or dad or somebody with a little child, their older child is up there trying to get something from concessions and they need to sit or wait for someone to go to the bathroom, just having a little bench there, which kind we really, haven't gotten that far, whether it's those rubberized ones or whether it's a cement. And so, I would think 15,000 is probably all we need, but we already have the flagpole that's been donated. And I think I heard someone was going to donate something else, but I can't remember what. So we have some, it's just know how to collect it and get it to use. Does that make sense? Yeah. And maybe that's what would be helpful, Laura, is that we put in out, we're looking to raise this much for da-da-da-da-da-da. Thoughts? What do you think on that? And what do you think on that until you're thinking?
Well, I thought that Jessica's company would match donations, and then we had a donor of like 5,000 to 7,000, which I thought covered the play box.
You had mentioned that only if all the games could be played on the new turf. So
I think that there's some flexibility there.
Okay.
So,
Okay. All right.
so I mean that it's
So,
there.
yeah, and it's still there, and one
but
of
there
the
hasn't
things.
really been any follow-up since. So.
Right. So that's where we're thinking, this could be the faster route, maybe, or, I don't know this person, but, my other thought is plaque, meaning like maybe you get the gold if you're, offering this much money, and maybe another is a silver and bronze.
Mm-hmm.
So you would want to recognize someone who wanted to give that kind of money, right? Yeah. Maybe I need to talk about how to work with that.
Yeah, they're ready to go. We're just waiting.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, last time I talked to you, I wasn't sure you were still working on it, so,
Mhm.
okay, all right. And we don't have any trees or any bushes, so, yeah, no landscaping, so that would be another place people
So I would
can do a
think-
tree.
Bushes, benches, landscaping.
The
and
finishing
whatever
touches.
Cost for that would probably be something to
Mhm.
be responsible.
Christy, do we have everything, and Laura, do we have everything we need for the concession stand? Is that all
Not
good?
necessarily, but they got a good start.
Well, and I,
Yep.
you know, like I'm thinking just random
What
things
else do
that
we need
come
to
up. Yeah.
finish?
You and Jonica would need to take them.
Yeah. But
It'll be in there soon, we're gonna know.
How many benches are you thinking? Like, is there anybody that's like a GA grad that would want to memorialize somebody by buying a bench here?
and right, those are
Like, but you would actually need, you know, like, hey, it's gonna be $1,000 for this bench, you know, and just to even gauge interest. Somebody might want their family member permanently displayed right there.
I could see as you come in, you see the flagpole and then you go either way. So over on this side of the building, you might need one, so you're waiting for someone to come out of the bathroom, or this side by the concession building, you know, just to have a place to sit for a second, if it's grandma or grandpa, or, you know.
And as far as like landscaping, you might even be able to talk to some local greenhouses, say, hey, if we give you some publicity, you know, would you be willing to do something for us?
the hard part is you know, Wendy can't make every call.
Oh,
And
no,
that's,
obviously.
no, and, but that's what, like, I mean, there are tons of great ideas, but it's, like, somebody's gotta
The
run with
finishing
it,
touches.
and that's,
Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah.
who's on that committee or whatever.
but,
We
yeah.
didn't have a very big turnout, so nobody's.
So that's why I was thinking that one simple way of just, these are the things we need, this is the amount of money, you know, kind of things like that, just to make it simple. Because yes, I thought the same thing too, and, you know, I tried reaching out to a couple people, didn't get much of a response, so then I'm like, well, how do I reach,
We
you
have a
know?
teacher who family owns a greenhouse.
Which one?
It's sure, it's a Shireen
Did-
greenhouse.
Actually, I have a connection here.
Should maybe someone we talk to.
So yeah, just think about
conversations
it.
helped.
Yeah.
I mean, even
So-
asking like John Plunk about the greenhouses.
Well, and which is nice too, but you also, yeah. So I think following up with what you guys were doing and then seeing what funds that are needed afterwards and what needs are done, and if we have a list of what's needed and what we can concise together
Yeah.
and move on from there.
Something
It's a good idea.
designed.
So I think maybe we start with a list and like,
And
Yes.
A
And
list
you know what you're
and
going
price.
after. It's a lot.
Trees,
Right.
yeah,
Yes.
right.
It's
a
a
list and it's
What
just an
size?
estimate of price and go
Itty
from
bitty
there.
trees that we don't have to mow around.
Frank doesn't want any trees, but. Yes.
Okay, all right, so start with the list, we'll talk with Ben.
And see where you're
where
at.
that is, and try to get some pricing for some landscaping.
Like us all that.
Okay, expect and then someone can start.
Happy to help.
And some people might just wanna provide funds, right, and not necessarily have their name anywhere.
So
It was a lot of like that are like
Yeah, exactly.
that. You can have some kind of link. I mean, I swear other schools have done something like that. You know, like you can donate it anonymously.
just find what we need first, though.
Yeah.
Let's
That
figure
way
that out first.
advertise it.
I like it.
Okay. Do you have anything else? No. Meeting adjourned at 7:18.
Great job.